Warhammer 40k players can be summed up into 5 levels of skill expression. Which level are you? Guys, I'm Jonathan Arkin from Happy Cropping. I'm a doctor of chiropractic neurology. I'm an MMA fighter. I'm a top 100 player in the world. And I'm coaching players from all over the globe to the top of their country's rankings. My goal is to bring you the best information possible to transfer you from where you currently are into becoming a strategic beast who dominates Warhammer 40k at no matter what level you are. So today we're actually celebrating the super major win of one of the original Happy Crumpers out there. So big shout out to Ida Kroknes Stensland, who just took down the Bristol super major this weekend. He's one of our fellow members of Team Norway, and actually I'm pretty sure this was his first time ever even playing on UKTC terrain, so massive shouts to you guys. But in today's video, this is a great time. I'm going to use his journey to go through the transformations that are actually required to take you from your current skill level in 40k to the next level of skill and competency. And this is how we're going to do it. So stay tuned because I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step method to improve your level. So here we go. There are 5 levels you have, and I'm gonna rank these in terms of like how you would perform at a 5-round tournament. You could just extrapolate this to perform at like a 6-round tournament or an 8-round tournament, a 3-round RTT. Extrapolate all you need. This is gonna be the basic framework. Now you've got the 0-5 player, the person who shows up. Okay, this is a hobbyist, or they're brand new, or they're just there to, I don't know, kind of drink and play games. And they're going to have a blast. No problems. This is the very, very base level of skill. And these are people who are here just having a good time. They actually don't care about winning or losing. Then we have the guy who goes 1 and 4. This is going to be a person who really has probably put a significant amount of time into the hobby, and they actually do understand the rules of the game, but they're just not clicking strategy-wise. So when we talk more in depth about this, I'll give you good examples of that. The 2-3 person, this person has a plan, but they're going to be falling apart when things don't just go the way they want it to happen. Then you have the 3-2 player, and this is the player who's actually a very, very good Warhammer player, and I think there's a misconception out there that if you're only a 3-2 player, you're okay. No, if you're a 3-2 player, you're freaking good. This is your talented but inconsistent results person. And then lastly, you've got that 4-1 player, and this is the person who is the assassin. This is the person who has the plan, and they're always going to be one of the ones to watch out for to be taking the tournament home. Now, a lot of you out there might be thinking, where's 5-0? There's no such thing as a 5-0 player, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but a 5-0 player is kind of just a ludicrous standard that there's not a single person on the planet that actually meets that standard. So we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so let's start from the bottom here. The hobbyist in disguise. All right, this guy knows the hobby, but they're just clueless about competition. This doesn't mean that there's anything bad about them on like a human standpoint or anything, but this is just someone who either has never played in a competitive set, or they're just trying to replicate the armies of the lore on the tabletop, and this is totally fine. This is a great place to be, but as far as tournament and competitive place, if you're trying to play well in a competitive setting, you're going to be disappointed, and it's probably not going to be that much fun for you because you're not playing competitively. You're probably playing more based off of like lore and stuff. These people tend to also not really know all the rules. Like they'll know the general concept of, oh, you need to move in the movement phase, you need to shoot in the shooting phase, but they're going to be getting a lot of the intricate rules incorrect as well. This is a person who's here and they're playing to play, and everyone else at the tournament is playing to freaking win. So in order to level up from this step, it really doesn't take all that much. All you really got to do is flip a switch in your mind, and it's just a really fast load of mindset shift where you say, hey, I would like to start competing. And this decision is way more important than like talking about the list that you're utilizing or the terrain layouts that you're going to be playing on. This is just, hey, I would like to learn how to play this game well. Once you make that switch, you're pretty much immediately going to fall into the next category of person, and you're going to start like leveling up your strategic thinking abilities. So that's the hobbyist in disguise. This one, we have the 1-4. This is the rules guide, but they have no real game plan. So these are the people who probably know the rules pretty good. They've got the phases down. They've actually got all the mechanics down. They understand that that an Overwatch is not a normal shooting activation. They understand that you could probably avoid an Overwatch by charging through a wall. But they have no understanding of army synergy. And we actually see a lot of these players, and this is not to condemn these players, this is just a wake-up call. If you're the person who's typing in comment sections, or if you're typing in discords and you're saying, oh hey, why aren't heavy intercessors good? Look at their profile. The problem with that question, there's no problem with the question. The reason why you're asking that question is because you're not understanding synergizing, and you're not understanding context. So a heavy intercessor, it's not that a heavy intercessor is bad. It's like, but what does it do in the context of why you're taking it? Well, I'm taking it because it can be durable on an objective. It's like, well, sure, but if you're doing that, why not spend 20 points less, take an intercessor squad that doesn't even have to touch the objective, and you're still holding the objective, right? So these are people who just aren't really grasping the context of the units inside in the game, and they really need to work on that idea of, okay, this is not a game of individual units running up a table together and rolling dice for them. This is a game of units operating in tandem to achieve a goal on the tabletop. So guys, this is where we are looking at a lot of players actually, and you're just gonna have to realize that knowing rules is actually the floor for competing in Warhammer 40k. It's not the ceiling. So yeah, here's how we're gonna improve from this step. I want you to stop asking, is this unit good, right? And start asking, what is your army trying to do, and how does this unit help your army achieve that goal? This is where I like to hammer the concept of how do you win Warhammer 40k? How do you win Warhammer 40k? Very, very simple. You create a victory point differential in your favor. Okay, let's go to the next step, because I'm going to finish that statement on this next step. The 2-3 player. This is actually a pretty good player. This person, or gal, I suppose, this person knows how to play Warhammer 40k. They actually understand, all right, when I deploy, I cannot deploy with all my guys on the line ready to get shot if I go second. These are the people who understand, all right, I have to control the objective to score my victory points. But these guys are a lot of times focused on the positive. They're focused on what happens when things go right. And this is really the thing, the main limiter that a lot of these guys have to really rely on. They're like, okay, cool, well, I'm going to go make this 9-inch charge. So they go for the 9-inch charge. But they don't really plan for what happens if they fail that 9-inch charge. And so sometimes they'll actually take bold action, and those bold action can be blessed by dice, and they'll actually kind of even overperform. Sometimes people at this level will make a single run where they go 4-1 at a tournament. But we're talking about these categories of players in terms of aggregate performance, not one at a time. So they've got solid fundamentals. They understand their army. They know what units they're going to go deny primary with. They know what units they're going to go score primary with. But once something goes wrong, they tend to fall to pieces. This is the person who does the math, and they say, well, my Gladiator Lancer should kill your Repulsor Executioner. And then the Gladiator Lancer doesn't kill the Repulsor Executioner. They go, oh, crap. What do I do now? That's who this player is. So once that happens and they actually have that flop, they might tilt a little bit. And I don't mean tilt in a like, oh, they're angry or a bad person way. I mean tilt as in their emotions start getting the better of them, and maybe they start making worse decisions to cover up the poor decision they made earlier. When you're at a 2-3 level of wargaming, it's probably not too much of a skill problem. It's probably a lot more of a composure problem. And these people tend to think that dice are fundamental decision makers in 40k, which is just really not true. The decisions you make on positioning your models on the tabletop is infinitely more valuable than good or bad dice. So just keep that in mind. So guys, if we want to go from that 2-3 level and we want to start leveling up to that 3-2 level, you need to learn to make decisions the same way in turn 5. All right? Like, if you are down 10 victory points in turn 1, you have to understand what it takes to make up that victory point differential. This is the person who needs to understand this is a victory point game, not a health point game. You don't need to kill your opponent's models simply because they're there. We only kill models for 3 reasons, and I'll use this hand for 3 reasons, and you can use those 3 reasons to basically decide how you're going to climb up the battlefield. So the reasons why we destroy our opponents are to score victory points, to deny the scoring of victory points, or to enable the denial or the scoring of victory points. And if you're destroying your enemy for any other reason than those 3, you're almost certainly exposing yourself unnecessarily, and you're trading resources out for really no reason. This is fundamental to you getting better at 40k. So I want you to recognize that in Warhammer, unlike almost every other major game out there, we win based off victory points, not health points. It's not Magic the Gathering, where you win by depleting your opponent's health points. It's not Yu-Gi-Oh!, where you win by depleting your opponent's health points. It's not League of Legends. It's not even chess, where chess you win by destroying your opponent's king, right? You deplete their health points, for example. In 40K, you can lose every single model on the table. You can lose every single model you have and never kill a single one of your opponent's models. Of course, this is a pretty extreme scenario, but you can do that and then still win because you outscored your opponent. It's a victory point game, not a health point game. This is the click that 2-3 players need to have so that they can make it to that 3-2 level. Let's talk about that freaking 3-2 level. And guys, if you're looking to go 3-2 and you're stuck at this 2-3 level, this is really one of the perfect places for me just to stop and just be like, this is a coaching client. There's a lot of coaching clients out there, but this is one of the best places for coaching clients to really start sliding in. Because when you are at this place where you're a little bit stuck, you don't have that correct game plan, you're not sure how to make the game plan, that's where I really, really work with people. And guys, I think today is the last day before all my prices on coaching are going up. But if you'd like to take advantage of that, then you can just visit the link down below and visit my coffee, and where you can start purchasing coaching for yourselves, and we can start leveling up your Warhammer play. Now, the 3-2 player. Here we go. This is the talented, inconsistent person. This is where most serious players really live when it comes to competitive 40K. And there's a huge misconception over 3-2. If you're a 3-2 player, you are a dang good player. Let me frame it like this. You're a grown man who has probably spent $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 on this hobby. You've probably spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours painting, building, traveling to and fro tournaments and playing. And your opponent has done the exact same thing. You have a 60-ish% win rate because you are consistently beating other men who are every bit as passionate and interested in this hobby as you are. This is an impressive achievement. A 3-2 player is a good player, and a 3-2 player is someone to be respected. So if you've got this record, mad respect. There's definitely a lot of ways we can improve from here, but you've done quite a good job. Now, a lot of people think that this is the most frustrating place to live because it's incredibly challenging to go from this to the next level, which is that 4-1. And the reason for that is that these people tend to be inconsistent. What they are failing to recognize is that when you play Warhammer 40K, your play, your decisions are what impacts the battlefield. It's not your opponents. These are people who still tend to try to react to what their opponents do. When I play 40K, when I hop on the table, I know what I'm doing in turn 1, regardless of whether I go first, regardless of whether I go second. I know where I'm deploying all of my models, regardless of where my opponent is deploying their models. I know where I'm staging. I know all these things. I don't need to see what my opponent does to know where I'm going and how I'm going to score my points on the tabletop. That's where 3-2 players need to get to. You need to get to that point where you know what you're doing regardless. I mean, there's nuance there, of course. There's always going to be nuance in things in a game as complicated as 40K. But for the most part, you need to understand what you are doing regardless of who your opponent is or what your opponent is doing. These guys are talented, but they're not consistent, which means they just have a lot of potential. So here's where I want you to do. I want you to figure out what changes to your decision making that you need to make. We need to build a process for how are we going to approach scoring and achieving victory on the battlefield regardless of the opponents. I know that my trash is going to be deployed in such a way that if I go second, I can't get shot, but if I go first, I can yeet them into the center to score me area denial. And then I don't care if you destroy them on the swing back. I need to make sure that I've got my trash deployed in such a way that if you go first and you touch your natural expansion, well, I can throw my trash onto your natural expansion to deny you scoring. I need to know that I've got my infiltrators in such a position that if I go first, I can fully move block you turn 1. And if I go second, I can scout backwards so that I cannot be seen. You see what I'm talking about? You need to get these contingencies down. So that's what I recommend for all of you 3-2 players out there. This is like key golden coaching material right here where I can really help you guys level up. Then we get to the last level of player. I'll briefly mention the 5-0 player as well. This is the operator, okay? This is the person that I was just talking to you about. This is actually the highest tier of player. This is where I sit. This is where John Lennon sits. This is where freaking Liam VSL sits. This is where Eirik Rukne Stensland has recently graduated to. Once again, congratulations on taking down the Bristol GT or Bristol Super Major. Super proud of you, buddy. This is where he has recently graduated to. These are the people who know what they're doing when they're playing Warhammer, regardless of who they're playing against. These are the people who understand how to formulate a plan. These are also the people who understand that it's okay to lose sometimes. So, for example, in competitive 40K, if you look at my stats, I've got like a 82% win rate in competitive 40K at tournaments. But if I lose a game, it's fine. I'm supposed to lose a game sometimes, right? When I execute my game plan, I've got a really, really high chance of success, and then sometimes things go awry, and I lose because of it. And that's okay. It's a ludicrous standard to have a 100% win rate. So what I do is I understand that occasionally my plans won't work, but I stick to that freaking plan because that gives me a dramatically higher win rate time and time and time again. So that's where your 4-1 player goes. Now, there's no such thing as a 5-0 player. That does not exist. A 5-0 player is a person who got lucky, whether it was in pairings or with dice or with the map that they got the pairing on. These are the people who have some form of luck that was backed up by a tremendous amount of 4-1 player skill, and they achieve the result of 5-0 on that given day. However, because of the sheer amount of counters and randomness and crazy things that happen in this game, it is ludicrous to hold yourself to the standard of a 5-0 player. The best players in the world, they are not 5-0 players. Liam VSL loses. John Lennon loses, even though John Lennon's one of the few guys who I know, like, I'm very happy to admit is just a better player than I am, right? A super lovely guy, too, by the way. Shout out to him. But this guy is not a 5-0 player. And it would be ludicrous for him to expect himself to win every tournament he goes to. There is just so much that is not under your control that you just cannot say that you're a 5-0 player. So that doesn't exist. 4-1 is the top. I will accept that there's also like maybe a subcategory where we could call a player 4-1 plus. And this is where like I sit. This is where like those other guys I mentioned sit. And these are going to be people who are going to be favored to take the win at the tournaments that they go to. So maybe there's like a subcategory of 4-1 you could say. But anyway, there we go. This is the person who's always going to be favored. These are the people who are really, really running through 40K. All right, guys. So I'm just going to summarize here real fast. Level ups are less about 40K, and they're actually a lot more about you. All right. So if you are a 0-5 and you're trying to go 1-4, it's a mindset shift. You just got to make that mindset shift. You need to decide to compete. If you're a 1-4 player, you're trying to get to that 2-3 level. Start understanding your army, right? Start recognizing that it's not a bunch of units doing things. It's a cohesive army that is operating on the battlefield, and recognize your win conditions. If you're going from 2-3 to that 3-2, now you need to recognize what happens if your plan doesn't go 100% correct, right? Because it won't do that very often. You need to make those recognitions. You also really need to start realizing that this is a victory point based game, not a health point based game. That's what's really going to get you over the hump from that 2-3 to that 3-2. And there's strategies involved, and I'd be happy to help you with that in coaching. And then for that 3-2 players trying to get to that 4-1 level, what we really need you to do is just shift your systems. Stop reacting. Start being significantly more proactive and imposing your will upon the battlefield. Stop thinking that you have to change everything you do based off of the matchup, based off of the map, based off of all of these things. You need to do what your army is going to do, and you need to force your opponent to react to you. That's really the big skill that gets you from a 3-2 to a 4-1 player, and it's a pretty dang big jump, and it's a very impressive jump to make. So these are the different freaking levels of player. Now, what level are you guys? Be honest. Type it in the chat below. I might be able to pop in and give a few recommendations there. But if you want specific implementation advice to you, book a coaching call, book a coaching match so I can help you diagnose what you're working with or what your problem is. These are the things that we need to do to become better players at Warhammer 40K. And until next time, crump on. Cheers. Bye-bye.